Hi, Mandy.
Hi, and thank you, Lateria, for inviting
Yeah,
me today.
I know. I love that we both work together. It's so fun. So our discussion is really about how do you get to the COO level and the role that it requires you to play and balance it all along the way. And some sort of tips and tricks about advice maybe to get there and kind of what we've been facing the last couple of years and what we think is coming. But Mandy, before we dig in, maybe you could just tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and your current role as the COO at OMD.
Sure. So I am. I've been here at OMD for a whopping 5 months, um, and at OMD, we like to say that we enable better decisions faster. And I see myself and my team as really kind of doing that for ourselves internally and ultimately our clients. So, I think everything that we're doing, the group that I lead is called the Business Transformation Office. And so that is, everything that we're doing is trying to make things better for our people internally, our clients, the consumers at the end of the day. And it's a great kind of inspiring, like, rallying cry to move around. But outside of work, I'm a mom, and I am an aspiring pottery enthusiast, and I try to have a life outside of work too. It ebbs and flows, my success there, but I think that's probably true for many of us.
Yeah, definitely. It's fun. I've actually been influential for 6 months. So between the two of us, we've got about 4 companies that we've touched and through the pandemic timeframe here. The COO role is a really interesting one, right? It requires you to have sort of touched a lot of pieces of the business over time. What really kind of drew you to that as you sort of built your career over time?
Yeah, I think it was really just in the last year, I think, really, as I came back from maternity leave and was kind of asking myself, like, what is next for me? Where do I go from here? What do I want to do? That I was able to realize, I like being involved in getting things done. I like to know how things work. Um, I think that thread has kind of gone throughout my whole career. And ultimately I settled on, it sounds like chief operating officer. Like, it sounds like someone that gets involved. And I know we were talking about this, like, this role is so nebulous. It's so different at every different company. Some companies have it, some companies don't have it. And the what you're in charge of as a chief operating officer differs so much. And it's also kind of, a carry-all and a catch-all. At my last company, I kind of saw myself as a jack of all trades. I'd been there for a really long time. I knew a lot of what was going on, even if it wasn't my responsibility to be part of it. People came to me as a resource, and I was like, well, this is what I want to do, but bigger. And so, it really seemed like COO was, what to set my sights on. And I was lucky enough to find an opportunity to do it. And so I'm really thrilled. But I think it really comes down to the fact that I just, want to make things better, and I like getting my hands dirty. I like being involved. I'm not the expert in everything, but I'm the expert in helping people do things differently or think of them in a different way, and trying to help them kind of, evolve how it is that they do things.
I love that. When we talked the other day, we were talking about how sort of zigzagging throughout organizations and industries, whether that's on the agency side or on the media partner side or even the client side, and in different sort of facets of strategic things, leadership in the client sense, as well as some of the planning, buying, analytics, different departments, but having empathy for what each of those things does throughout your career and how they all work together, right? To have a bigger picture of how success could be reoriented as we continue to transform. I noticed that you've been in lots of different roles in your career. Can you talk about some of those?
Sure. Yeah. So I knew I wanted to do media coming out of college. I was a marketing major, and I actually got my first job at a full service agency on the account side. And I am so grateful for that because it really introduced me to everything advertising. There's so much more to advertising than just media. And that year that I spent in account management introduced me to all the different facets of that. And I had a great education. It reinforced the fact that I wanted to do media, which was good. But it really allowed me to see the full breadth of an agency and the services that it offers and how everyone needs to work together. And then I was able to switch into media, and I kind of grew up, in digital media. I thought I wanted to do traditional coming out of college. I really wanted to buy magazine space. I'm glad now that I didn't do that. Digital is such a crazy space and constantly evolving. Not to dig on the print buyers out there, because still very much an important part of media. But I think, having that background in media, really understanding what goes into it, I might have never been a programmatic buyer because that's a newer thing than when I was hands-on, but I understand the basics of what it takes to do that. And I think to your point, I think empathy in leadership is important no matter what your job is. But I think within operations, so much, even though operations can differ so much, at the end of the day, a lot of the time you're telling someone how to do their job or how to do their job better. And I think if you've had experience doing their job, even to a certain degree, it really helps you have a leg to stand on there and lets you understand what you're asking of someone. I always really like to know how things work because I want to know what I'm asking of others. So, in my last job, we had this homegrown tool that we used. And at the level that I came in at, I didn't have to learn it and use it and really know the ins and outs, but I was managing people that were going to have to be in it every day. I wanted to know what it meant for them when I said, hey, I need you to do this tonight. And like, how hard is that? What am I asking of them? Like, I think having that empathy for you don't know if you know what you're asking of someone, then you can decide how important it needs to be or how you help them reprioritize. I think it's just super important to know also that you don't know everything. And I certainly don't know everything. But having that desire to know and that desire to be open-minded and hear when you're wrong and hear when you're challenged, like I think as a leader, that's super important to me as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love the notion of like the ride along, right? To like come alongside some of the folks doing things that maybe didn't exist or that you don't know as much about. Same is true for me as I move deeper into influencer from general agency work. And I feel like some of this stuff really gets at, in order for us to recommend transforming structures or ways of working or job responsibilities, removing hierarchy, moving to agility, all these topics that we're covering today, you really do have to be able to go deep enough into what the role and responsibility is, or the RACI, right, of some of these folks' jobs, in order for them to trust that your recommendation is sound.
Mm-hmm.
How have you been able to articulate that to your team, that you've done the due diligence of digging into some of the stuff they're doing?
I mean, gosh, that's a great question. Hopefully well enough. I think I'm asking a lot of questions, and still, especially still being somewhat new here, just really trying to ask what I don't know and not be afraid of saying, like, can you tell me what that stands for? Or, can you walk me through what that thing is? Or, we have a lot of, here at OMD, we have a lot of proprietary tools as well. So I'm trying to get certified in those so I can really understand, everything that we're offering and doing for our clients. Luckily, with the folks on my team, with many of them, I have done their jobs. So that is helpful. But with some of them, I have never done their jobs. And I'm very open with them about that, and they know that. And so it's like, I'm here for you. We're just honest about, like, I'm here for you from a career and mentorship standpoint, and I'm going to advocate for you, but like, I'm not the technical person that's going to tell you how to do X or Y. But if you need that, we're going to get you that. Like, we're going to find that for you, like if and when that comes up. So I think, I'm not afraid to tell people that I don't know something.
Yep.
So if, I'm not going to pretend that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because that in and of itself is a skill you build over time, right? To have the ability to be transparent about that and to lean in and learn. And learning is critical no matter what level you're at as you go through this.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's even more important now. Like, I want to be challenged. I want to be learning. This is not necessarily the last job I'm going to have. I'm going to be working for a lot longer. And so I don't want it to just be the same all the time. Like, I definitely want to be learning more things.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, you touched on some of the, like, you're there to give guidance in career management and stuff. Like, throughout your journey, how have you identified mentors for yourself to give you guidance along the way?
I don't know that it's always been easy. And I don't know, this isn't, to say anything negative of anyone. I've had some amazing bosses. I don't know if I've really had mentors necessarily. I'm kind of like, I'm asking for one, like I have gone to people and said, and actually that's not true, because I have gone to people and said, like, will you be this mentor for me? Like, and I have to be comfortable doing that. And usually, it's always been a yes. And they're really just someone that I admire, someone that, has skills that I would like to grow into having, someone that I think does a great job. And yeah, I think whenever, I don't think anyone's ever just been like, hey, let me take you under my wing. Although I have had like great people that have, recommended me for things. But I think, like, I always come back to this one boss that I had, the first, maybe second boss that I had, first boss in media, who really just made me realize that even though I thought I was doing like a great job of doing this or that, or whatever it was at the time, she made me realize that how others are perceiving me is just as important as what I think I'm doing or not doing.
Yep.
Even possibly more important. And it was a real eye-opener for me at the time. It was my first job in media. I was maybe a year out of school, and I thought I was doing great. And she was like, are you sure that you really want to be doing this? Because like these things that I see you doing tells me that maybe you're not. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just floored right now. I didn't realize that that's how it was coming across. Like, yeah, I want to be here. Like, I want to be here so much. And I constantly think of her. So Tammy Bondanza, if you're out there, like, I owe you a big thank you. And I'll be sending you an email.
I love that. It is funny because I've had true mentors, and then I've had other people who've dropped little nuggets that just stay with you forever, right?
Yeah.
I had a recent boss who, if anybody's on from the old Havas days, who said, assume positive intent, right? Whenever you're in a discussion with someone, assume that they don't mean to be the way they might be coming off, right? They are coming from a different place. And I think all those tips about trying to enter any discussion with positivity, even if you have a tough conversation, is ahead of you with a client or whoever, to be able to put a like positive outcome based solution in front of them, you'll always get further ahead, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's definitely a cornerstone to live by,
Yeah.
in work and not work,
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
life is so stressful. And at the end of the day, we're all just trying to do a good job, in both places, work and outside of work.
Yeah.
And, what is good for me might not be good for you, and vice versa. But, most of us are not acting with malice. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. So mentoring. So it's something that you feel really strongly about, right? And I know
definitely.
you've taken it on as part of what defines you and your career, and as you grow as a person. Can you talk a little bit more about that too?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something I'm super passionate about. I've been involved in lots of different organizations, some focused on women, some not, and I love talking with people that are early in their careers or not yet in their careers, and, just making sure that they know what is available to them. The Step Up Women's Network is an organization that I've been part of in New York. They're actually national, but they are an organization that works with middle school and high school girls and gets them, often in, first in their family to be exploring college, and just exposes them to all the different careers and career paths that they could be going on. And it's just so inspiring. I think, like, as a mentor, you get so much more out of that, I think, than the mentees even. You just see these young women who are like so driven and so passionate and so excited about what's ahead of them. And you can't help but be like, oh my God, I'm excited for you. You're going to do such amazing things. And it's like, it's really inspiring, and just kind of like, yeah, like, I don't need to worry. Like, the kids got it. Like, they're going to make this world a better place. Like,
I love that.
it might be past for my generation, but
Isn't that funny how, like, you think you're doing something for them, but really they're doing something back for you too?
yeah, it's so nice.
So, all right, so let's pivot a little bit and talk about this crazy environment that we've been battling our way through for the past 24 months or so. And really, it's monumental change that has happened for good, right? We are in this new place, this new world where, how clients work, how our employees want to work, and the talent crisis that we've all been fighting through. What do you think that companies are going to need to continue to navigate through as we continue pushing ahead here?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we're definitely attuned to here. I'm sure many of the folks listening, their companies are also dealing with it. I think flexibility is the biggest thing. I think we've learned that we don't have to be in an office, and I think that's a great lesson. I think it was harder won by some than others. Some companies, I know, influential is entirely virtual, right? So, like,
Correct.
pivoting to work from home all the time is not a pivot. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Whereas, I wasn't at OMD when it started, but I think, I understand from others that this was a big change. So I think, just knowing and trusting that we don't have to come back to the office 100% all of the time, every day. People can get their work done. We can trust people to get their work done, because, again, positive intent, everyone's just trying to do their job, and our lives look a little different now on the other side. So I think just like understanding and being very straightforward with our employees and our prospective employees about the flexibility that we allow for and offer is really important. But at the same time, I think, we've had so many people, young people, start their careers during the pandemic, and they've never experienced life in an office.
Mhm.
And I don't want to discount what you can get out of that. And I want them to be open-minded to trying it too, because I think, like, it's great to have the flexibility to work from your house and then work from your office and then work from your parents' house during Thanksgiving. So you're, not taking vacation time, but at least, I find a lot of value from getting to just walk up to someone at their desk, meet people in the hallway, come across someone and be like, oh, right, like, I wanted to talk to you about this thing. Can we chat? And you don't get that in a, work from home, entirely virtual experience. And I think there's ways around that too, that, like, those of us doing a hybrid thing, I think we need to get better at having more virtual hallway conversations, and I'm sure, companies that are entirely virtual have more of a plan there, but I worry that some of the hybrid companies will get to a place where, if you're someone that's more virtual than office based, then, like, I don't want anyone to be detrimentally affected by how they choose to come to work.
Yeah.
And I don't think they need to be. So I think it's just, it's the companies have to figure out how to enable these connection opportunities.
Yeah, I believe that is our biggest challenge right now, is creating a sense of belonging and camaraderie amongst the staff, right? In a way where when your relationship is with your laptop, it is a different environment.
Yeah.
You're sitting next to your, compadres at night, like all fighting the good fight together and going out for pizza, right? So it keeps me up at night for sure, especially for folks just joining us from college and from other places. So I think it is going to be quite an interesting next 24 months of how we treat our talent and what opportunities we can unlock for them.
Yeah. And we were just talking about culture today here. Like, I think that this virtual world has allowed for some culture to really actually accelerate. The people that you're talking to every day, the people on your team, you've got a real good thing going with them. Like, you figured it out by this point, right?
Yep.
But when there's other people outside of just your day-to-day team, and I want everyone to get that opportunity to meet other people at the company, to wander by my desk and say hello, to wander by our CEO's desk and say hello, to meet in the hallway and realize, like, or to go to an after work event together and get to talk to someone in a non-work context.
Yeah.
Like, that's the stuff that I don't want to lose.
Do you find a lot of your conversations today are about what other processes or technology need to be enabled to really get the best collaboration and creativity from your teams?
We definitely are talking about that a bit. I think it's also, we've been focused a lot on what's right from a return to office perspective as well. And so I do think that we owe ourselves more time to discuss the hybridness of our work future. Because it's like, do people want to come back? What's it going to be like in the office when they do come back? What happens if there's another spike? Hopefully there won't be, but certainly there could be. And I think that we do, to what I was talking about before with like just a long-term hybrid approach. Like, I do think that we need to be thinking about the tools that we're using together. And luckily, as a big company, we have many tools at our disposal, but we're not always using all of them. I understand from my colleagues that, we use Microsoft Teams, and that wasn't necessarily the norm before COVID to have video conversations. And now it is much more the norm. I came from a company where we always had video conversations because our clients were on one side of the coast and we were on the other, and they owned a tool that was a video conferencing tool. So we always did it. But that's not true at every company.
Yeah.
So there's many more tools coming available now too. So I think there'll be more virtual collaboration, and some of it's great, from an environmental perspective. Like, we've proven that you don't have to fly everywhere to have a meeting. Like, you can do some things virtually. And that's not to discount the in-personness, because everyone, loves to get together, and I do too. But there's a time and a place for both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have about 5 minutes left. If anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. So Mandy, curious what you think. So before even the pandemic, we had a lot of our clients, a lot of the media partners were really talking about agility and the transformation that they needed to make from hierarchical systems and structures towards more flat, more agile, fast moving, all of that stuff. That began before we knew what COVID was going to be. And it is accelerated really through the lens of COVID, because we have seen a whole group of, sort of how do we swarm and squad ourselves around things? How are agencies taking that on?
I think agencies have been needing to explore their models for a while now, and this is no different. I think having a different tools and different models at our disposal and knowing that, one model is not right for every team and every client structure, is really how we're approaching that. There's going to be certain cases where, yes, everyone, like, you should be empowered to make decisions, up to this point. And then, maybe at this point, that's when you have to come to someone else to be like, okay, sure. Like, yes, no, I approve that. But I think, we need to trust our people to be enacting things and making the right choices in the majority of situations. And then just being flexible again, with the way that we work, with the models that we put forward for how our teams, either work for a particular client or a particular group of clients.
I love that. So Lataria just told me we end at 4:10, so we have a little more time. So I get to keep asking you questions. So one more question I had that, it strikes me as we often talk about all the chaos that has ensued with the COVID and the transformation that the companies have had to make. But I kind of feel strongly that it's actually unlocked some really positive things that maybe wouldn't have come along if we didn't have to accelerate towards this kind of behavior. Be curious what your thoughts are on some of those positives that are out there.
I mean, I think I personally feel like the flexible working approach is a big positive. I think that it levels the field for many people that didn't have the opportunity to engage in certain types of work before. I think it also has proven that you don't need to have everyone in, an urban city center. We can hire someone in Montana and they can do the same good job that someone in New York can do. And I think that has given us a lot of opportunity, both as a company, but then also as a person. If you are someone that's I can't live in New York City anymore. And so many people did this, right? Can't live in New York City anymore. I'm going to move to Maine. And, I still want to be engaged. I still want to have a great job. You can do that. And I think COVID has proven that for us. I think that flexibility, I feel like I've said that word a lot with you today, but I really think that that's the greatest upside that we've gained.
Yeah, I love that. I also think it's funny too, when you engage in this way where it's real up close face, and then you have a boardroom of folks and some people on a Zoom. It's very interesting too, that you miss the up close personal sort of engagement. In a bizarre way, you're almost able to get closer to people in this environment that you might not have been willing to have a meeting with one-on-one or something in a different world.
Yeah. And I think it makes the in-person stuff that much more valuable when it does happen, because it's not going to happen every single day, every single time. So you really make the most of it, and you're more thoughtful about what it is that you're doing and achieving. I would love to get my team together in person, all in one place. I don't even think that they've all, been in person together, and they've been a team much longer than I've been here. But I know that I need to make sure that we have a real agenda that we're going to achieve in that time. It's not just travel for travel's sake. And it's not just social. Yeah.
So you hit on this when we first started. You're a working mother. Has this environment of the hybrid made life a lot easier to balance everything in your family dynamic? Or is it crazier, right? Sometimes in your life.
It's also this is all that I've known. So I had my son right before the pandemic started. I came back from maternity leave 2 weeks after my then company went 100% working remote. So I haven't known anything different than pandemic life. And yes, I think the short answer is yes, it's made it easier. I would not say that I can do it all, because I can't. I think that, and I'm grateful for, my boss and my team's flexibility, because if I'm in the office, I have to leave at a certain time to get my son from daycare. I'm signing off from 5 to 7 every night to do bedtime and dinner and all of that stuff. And then oftentimes I should get back on, and many times I will, but sometimes I'm too tired, and they're giving me grace to know and trust that I'll get the work done, even if I can't get it done that night. And I think that's also a privilege that I get at my level, and with my years of experience, I know that I can't get it all done. And I'm okay with that, in a day. I know that I will get it done eventually. And I don't really feel the need to prove myself in that sense. Whereas, someone earlier on in their career, I'm sure probably feels differently, or might have a boss that's less understanding. And I hope that all of COVID has kind of loosened that up for people a bit. I would really be curious to hear from a working mom that was, dealing with it pre-COVID and post-COVID to see what it's like, if it's better or different now. But, I think motherhood is tough and working is tough and doing them all at the same time is tough.
I bet. For me, it's funny. I use this, Lataria, I know she's heard me say it, I'm sure. I believe strongly in being the CEO of your own career, right? So you own it, right? You own the choices you make. And it's advice I try to give all of the team at Influential too, of mark out those times when you're not available. Like managing your work-life balance is something that you actually do have control over, right? I scream to everyone, like 5 to 7, I'm on the Peloton, don't call me, right? Like it's my block of time that keeps me sane. And I'm sure that everyone has those things that are the must-dos in order for them to feel good about themselves, whether that's family time, working out, some kind of engagement in your life that's a mental or physical health thing. And I think it's important that we all encourage everyone to embrace those things and build them into our lifestyle, and define when work happens for ourselves. To your point, you don't have to get it done that day. You'll get it done, right?
Right.
And I think that's an important dynamic.
Yeah. And I think there's,
So
sorry.
I actually am, I was a working mom pre-COVID and now, and I feel like I have mixed feelings. Like in some ways it's, there's flexibility. Like I no longer have a sitter. Like there was someone who literally took them to school and picked them up from school and brought them home. So I don't have to sort of pay for that, and I'm now able to do things like go get them and bring them back, that like 5-minute break versus like traveling from Day Street all the way back to Harlem is cut out of my life, which is really nice. But in a way, I feel like there's less separation. So for example, I would come home from work pre-COVID and, focus, let's say 2 hours on the kids and sort of hop back on. But with them around all day, I'm not really available to them, but I'm present. And that is a lot for a child to sort of get their heads around.
Yeah.
I will say that like having empathetic leaders like you guys, like Ozzy, like Ryan, like just giving you the grace and space to sort of figure it out. And the fact that everyone is figuring this out at the same time, whether or not you have children, like it's just one of those things to even sort of being a single person at home, just rolling out of your bed, in front of your computer is definitely a mental adjustment,
Yeah,
and you guys are not just thinking about it for yourselves, but you're thinking about it for like 1,400 employees and like what that looks like for every single person in all these different states and places of their lives. So, so kudos to you guys. Also, like I wanted to say that it's so funny to hear you both talk so humbly, but you guys are bosses. You are a C-level, you're leading this company. And it's so interesting to see also the humility and also the confidence that it takes to say things like, I don't know your exact function, but let me help you do it better. Like both those things go together so flawlessly. And I think, it's that sort of natural inherent trait of like an empathetic female leader that it's like magical. And I don't know that you guys hear it, but I'm sure the audience does. And it was so great to listen to you guys. I don't have another question. I'm just here to observe. So carry on.
I love that. And of course I have the New York sirens going by. So as per usual, this is the fun of Zoom. So just a wrap up question, Mandy, what kind of advice would you leave for women, senior women, rising women, people just getting started in their career? Like what are a couple things you'd embark on them?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little different for people just starting and people that are rising. I feel like if you're just starting, I really want you to be open to everything because you have absolutely no idea where your career is going to go. I started in account management, even though I knew I wanted to do media, and now I'm in operations. I could not have predicted that. And so I would just say, be open to it because it could be amazing. It will be amazing. And then for people that are rising, I would say, to try to have a goal. And it doesn't need to be your forever goal. And it could be short-term, it could be long-term, whatever, but figure out what you want and say it out loud. I think Jackie was talking about this too. I think you start talking about it. And that's what I did. It took me some time, but I realized I want to be a COO. And then I started telling people I want to be a COO one day. And I mean, it's not like I manifested it, but like it helps because you're starting to put that idea in other people's head and they're thinking, oh, who can I connect her with? Like, who can I introduce her to? How can I help her? And if you start talking about what it is that you want to do, people will remember that. So
It's almost like a manifestation.
Mhm.
I love it.
yeah, I think like once you know and you start putting it out there, then you're putting ideas in people's head.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I always
know.
felt like through my journey too, it was like, there was things I was really good at, organizational things, deducing how we could do things better. And there's things I love doing with talking to people, the social aspect, right? The like fun of the media world, and finding a way to build all of that into your life is really important thing to stay like satiated with what you're doing every day.
Yeah. And I think I also didn't necessarily give as much value to the things that I was good at. Because also like the organizational stuff and like keeping on top of like lots of different things, like I just figured, whatever, like I'm like, it's easy. It must be easy for everyone. I didn't realize for the longest time that that's a real great skill
Right.
and it has value. So yeah, I think like finding stuff that you're really excited about is very important, and don't stick with something that you're not thrilled by, but also be smart about, getting to your next thing. I think every opportunity is a learning opportunity. There are no bad experiences. Like you might have a job that you don't love, but it's not a bad experience. Figure out like what you're getting out of it, because you're getting something. Even if it's you're learning that you're not that interested
like
in
that.
X or
Yeah.
Y.
Right.
You might take some wrong steps. I've taken wrong steps. But it's not going to hold you back.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for the time, Mandy. This has been awesome to get to know you.
Thank you
and to
guys.
see this video. And I'm sure, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm sure you agree. If there's other people out there that have any questions for either of us, we're both open to that.